Hi, it's Kim, and I'm back for another week of 10-minute tips for your relationships. 10 minutes. Okay, so you've noticed part three. My partner's not with me tonight. He's been real busy, and I let him off the hook. But we had to get this 10-minute tip out. So I just kind of wanted to go back over week one and week two. Week one, we talked about what is forgiveness, and we had our own definitions of what forgiveness was. And I think my definition was, hey, simply I let a person off the hook. And not that letting them off the hook is easy, but that was my definition of what I do when I forgive. And then in week two, we talked about what forgiveness is not. And one of the things that we pointed out was that we said forgiveness was not saying that what a person did was okay. Just because we chose to forgive them doesn't mean that we agree with what they did. Now, one other thing that I wanted to point out was, and I didn't mention this the other 2 weeks, but I also wanted to point out that even though we forgive a person, they still, based on what they did or what the offense was, they still may have to face some consequences for their actions. I don't know. Could be some natural consequences that may take place. Say, for instance, if someone has committed a crime, even though you committed a crime against me, you stole something from me, you still may have to pay a consequence for that. So just because we forgive a person does not mean that they are automatically released from the consequences of their behavior or their actions. Okay, I wanted to point that out. So I wanted to start with this real short quote from Gandhi. And he says, "The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is an attribute of the strong." Yes, that's a great quote. And it's true. It takes a lot of strength to forgive a person. It really does. Because it's almost like you're setting your feelings and you're setting your rights aside for another person. And, God does it for us all the time. So why not do it for someone else? Okay. So I just wanted to start by saying what we do, and this is all about relationships. It's all about intimate relationships, and not just husbands and wives and significant others, but I mean, intimate relationships also include mothers and sons and daughters and siblings and family members of all sorts. So, we have to keep in mind that, forgiveness is something that we have to deal with in all of those relationships. So what we do is we trigger each other at our core. We trigger one another. And what we do when we're in a intimate relationship, we tend to let our hair down. We tend to let our defenses down. We tend to get emotionally connected to a person. We let them in that special place we've not let anyone else in before. And guess what? That's the person that can hurt us the most. The person that we let in, the person that we told the most, that we shared the most with, that person can hurt us the most. But we still have to forgive. We still need to move forward and forgive. Forgiveness is cleansing, not just for the person who's being forgiven, but it's good for the person who's doing the forgiving, right? Now, let me just say this. Forgiveness is a process. You don't just wake up and say, oh, you hurt me to the core and I forgive you. Done. No. Forgiveness takes effort. It's a process. It's going to take some effort for you to forgive a person. If you've been hurt deeply by someone and you really want to go forward in the relationship, you want to restore the relationship, or you know what, you may not want to restore the relationship. You may want to just say, you go your way, I go my way, but you feel like I need to forgive that person because I know it's what I need to do for myself. You can do that as well. So I just want to kind of go over just a couple things that will kind of help us with this whole process of forgiving another person. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to be all the way 100 with yourself. Yes, I wanted you to take care of you first in this whole process of forgiving. I want you to acknowledge your pain. I want you to acknowledge the hurt. Yes, I want you to acknowledge the pain and acknowledge the hurt that has been caused by another person, a person very, very special to you, very close to you, a person you're in an intimate relationship with. You need to acknowledge that. You need to say what it is that hurt you, or you need to say that you're hurt. You need to say that, that person caused you some pain. I guess what I'm saying is, number one is acknowledge. Acknowledge that you've been hurt, okay? Then the second thing I want you to do is now you're going to make a decision. You're going to make a decision that you're going to forgive. Yeah, not easy, but you're going to make a decision to forgive. Now, this decision, when you make it, doesn't mean that, you just say, okay, I'm going to forgive this person. And then all the feelings and all the pain, all the everything that you went through just disappears. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But when you make a decision to forgive a person, you make that decision to let them off the hook, then that's when the process really begins. Yes, you're going to acknowledge what they did hurt you. You're going to acknowledge the pain, but you're also going to make that decision. And that decision is, I'm making a decision to forgive this person. Tough stuff. I'm making a decision to let that person off the hook. And guess what? You may wake up tomorrow and you may feel everything that you felt the day before. Yes, but you have to remind yourself that you made a decision. You made a decision to forgive. And you may have to keep reminding yourself for a while that you made a decision to forgive. And you know what? Really, in that process of forgiving and in that decision, what you're doing is you're taking the power from that hurtful deed. You're taking all the power from it, all the power that it has over you that keeps you in that place of unforgiveness. You are taking that power back by making a decision to forgive that person. Because what you're doing is you are not rehearsing all the negative feelings connected to that deed. You're not rehearsing what they did over and over again. You're not rehearsing all the negative pain and anguish that that you were going through before you made that decision to forgive. Some deep stuff. Forgiveness. It's a decision. It's not a feeling. Because when you start to forgive people, you don't feel like it. And you don't feel all warm and fuzzy inside. You have to work through that process and keep reminding yourself and pray and ask God to help you with that decision to forgive. One of the other things that is kind of helpful is when you try to empathize with that person. You try to put yourself in their place. I'm not saying you have to do this all the time, but it can be helpful is having some empathy for that person. And then the last thing I want to point out is this. Getting an apology is not connected to forgiveness. You may never get the apology you're looking for, but guess what? Your decision to forgive is your decision to forgive and has nothing to do with that person apologizing. Praise God if you get it, but if you don't, you can still, stand up tall, walk in your decision to forgive. Not easy. It's a process. And some of us have some deep, deep traumas and hurts and pains that have been caused by people that we love the most. But you can forgive. These are my 10-minute tips. Thank you.